Yeah, sure. So the next one that we have here is a Mavericks offer, something close to a Mavericks offer that a source told us has been a standing offer since the end of the season. Tim Hardaway Jr., Josh Green, and the number 10 pick in this year's draft for DA. The Suns haven't yielded on this, obviously, and I kind of view it as something of a last resort. That package that we were told by the source has been on the table for a while now, doesn't work financially. You have to throw in a Maxi Kleba or Davis Bertans, at which point you would need to include campaign if you're going with Davis Bertans. But this kind of feels, I don't want to say bad because they are getting a top 10 pick out of it. It's hard to feel as good about a top 10 pick considering the way the Suns have treated the draft recently.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they immediately flip that pick somewhere else. But this would be a situation where the Mavs draft that player that the Suns want and then trade him to him after the fact.
Right, because within all of this, I guess that's the biggest question. DA still has the no trade veto power until July 1st, technically, right?
15th. Yes.
Which I know that the conversations we've had around this ahead of time is, if he says no, well, then we just trade him on July 15th. But when you incorporate picks within these moves, now it's a little bit more, there's a little bit more behind the scenes that needs to go on to make sure that that person is selected that the Suns want and all of that kind of stuff.
The feeling I got about this too was that the Suns weren't overly keen on it. They were hoping you could then take those pieces and flip it for something else. So I also don't like the idea of, and I'll just as a petty person say this, trading Deandre Ayton to the Mavs, because there's nothing more disgusting in my mind than having somehow Jason Kidd unlock the potential of Deandre Ayton, having him play next to Luka Doncic, and then having to face that in the playoffs. Well, I think I'd throw up.
I can't assure you it won't be J. Kidd that's doing that. It would be Luka Doncic himself that's doing that. But
the appearance of Jason Kidd.
Yeah. No, I understand that. And there are a lot of trades that are with Western Conference teams, and I know some people feel some type of way about helping Western Conference teams. I don't give a shit. If it makes your team better, I don't care what it does for the other side. I don't personally think that DA is going to be the guy that comes back to put the final nail in your playoff coffin personally, but
I would agree with you for most teams in the West, but there are two teams that I'm not on board with.
Yes, Dallas and
the Nuggets.
Yeah,
obviously.
Right.
The Nuggets don't
for
need
the Nuggets we
very
don't need to worry
simple
about.
reasoning.
Look,
but just in general, speaking of that,
the Lakers can be on that list.
The Lakers
that's
were
fair.
the one I was
but
thinking.
More recent history, those two for sure are on the shit list. But
yeah.
Even though you don't necessarily believe that DA is going to go off and become the nail in the coffin for the Suns later on, I still think there is a decent percentage, not over 50%, but there is a percentage out there in my mind that's I don't even want to risk it.
No,
because that would hurt worse, especially with a guy like Luka and just the beef between the franchises and the fan bases. That would, like Espo said, I would throw up.
Have you seen the Oppenheimer trailer where Matt Damon's character says to Oppenheimer, well, what are the chances that we destroy the world by doing this? And he goes, less than 1%. And Damon goes, I'd prefer 0%.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. Even if it's less than 1% that Deandre Ayton could go to Dallas and wind up becoming the man everybody hoped he'd be, I'd prefer 0%.
That is called trauma, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, well, you know what, Gerald? One thing we have learned about the Suns is if it can happen in a poetic type of a way, it will happen to us, and this is that. So for those reasons alone, I don't want to play this game.
Fair enough.